the board where you're sitting and stuff? Is it okay in the camera like that? Okay, I got the thumbs up. So as long as I don't knock my coffee over. All right. So I want to keep talking about beliefs. We kind of started that. I don't know. We've kind of been touching on and off about it, right? One of the things Tony Robbins says that I really like, he said, you should work harder every day on yourself than anything else that you do. Now, he's in a different world than most of us, right? So I don't know if it's realistic to say work harder on yourself than anything else. But let's say this, you should work on yourself every day. But you want to make sure you're doing the right kind of work, right? You want to make sure you're doing work that's going to yield some kind of results, right? So I want to talk a little bit about how we're wired, how our minds work, and what causes us to get into problems. And then I want to give you just some practical stuff to shift some things. Because if you can shift a belief, if you can shift something about yourself inside, your whole world can change. Because you will always experience life through your belief. So we talked last week about belief having three components to it. What's the difference between a thought and a belief, right? So a thought is just a thought. And psychologists tell us a thought or a belief has to have emotion, or it has to have feeling. So you kind of have this triangle here of thought, feeling, but then underneath it, you have to have affirmation. You have to say yes to it. So you have to think it, you have to feel it, and you have to affirm it that it's reality or it's not a belief. Right? So beliefs become frames. Everybody just say with me, beliefs become frames. I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. So let's look at how your brain works. So when you have an experience, your brain takes a snapshot or makes a motion picture out of that experience. It edits, it deletes, and it distorts. Oftentimes based on what you believe, based on our assumptions, based on our presuppositions, but it gets stored in a sensory way. So you have these internal, instead of the ISR, internal sensory representations. Or you have motion pictures, snapshots, photo albums, soundtracks, whatever. You see something, you hear something, you feel something, the brain catches it, creates a model of it, and then you start representing that to yourself. Okay? Then, once you have that imprint, you start to comment with your thoughts. You start thinking about what you experienced. So let's think about it on vacation. My family's on vacation. I didn't get to go. That's an experience, right? So I go home, house empty, except for the dogs, which, well, we have a love-hate relationship. They love me, I hate them. No. I'm just kidding. But actually, see, I just did it. I commented on my experience. So my experience is at a sensory level, I go home, the house is empty, it's quiet. What else can I say about it? But it's still my house, right? So I sit in it. So that's my sensory experience. But then I start commenting on my sensory experience. Wow, this is great, having the house all to myself. Or, this really sucks, and I feel lonely. Or, and you just keep doing this. You think about your thinking. So you think about the experience, then you think about your thinking. So I say to myself, God, this really kind of sucks because, I'm all alone. And then I say, but, it's really nice to have this quiet time to myself. I really should take advantage of it. Maybe I can get some things done around the house that I haven't been able to get done because I won't have so many interruptions. You see what I'm doing? I keep thinking about my thinking, and every time I add a thought to a thought, I modify my experience of it. And so we do this in clusters, and we do it really, really fast, right? We do it oftentimes without consciousness. So when I'm having those internal sensory representations, and then I'm thinking about it, and then I'm thinking about my thinking, here's what's happening to me neurologically. Neurologically, neurotransmitters. I don't know why that word escaped me for a minute. Neurotransmitters, which are just chemicals in your brain, start releasing. You start releasing chemicals in your brain that are neurotransmitters based on your thoughts. Then your neurotransmitters release neuropeptides into the bloodstream. And your neuropeptides will go through the bloodstream, and it will merge into glands, various different glands that you have throughout your body. And then your glands, what do your glands do? Your glands release another chemical that dictates in your body how you're feeling. So I'll give you two examples. Opposite ends of the spectrum. So, we know that you have, maybe you don't know this, but you have, your nervous system can be divided into two basic responses. You have your sympathetic nervous system and what's called your parasympathetic nervous system. Or you could call it a stress response, put it for the rest of us, right? Stress response or a relaxation response. All right? So, you have fight or flight. And then you have, on the opposite end of the spectrum, this relaxation response. So here's how this can work just in your mind, right? Just in your mind, not even in your experience, just in your mind. So let's take the parasympathetic response first. So let's just say, and I know nobody ever does this, but let's just say you have a sexual fantasy. So the first thing that happens, well, I guess I'm telling on myself. You're going to have a thought, you're going to have a picture, you're going to have whatever in your mind, right? That's going to start releasing the neurotransmitters and certain neuropeptides that are going to connect to glands in the body that then cause some kind of a arousal or stimulation. So pretty soon you're feeling it in your body, right? And then, guess what? When you're feeling it, guess what else you're going to do? You're going to have more thoughts about what you're feeling. Which is going to do what? It's going to release more neuropeptides. It's going to release more hormones, which is going to cause the feeling to increase, and you just keep going, right? Let's take the other side of the spectrum. Let's take stress response. How many of you, well, don't raise your hand, but how many of you have that coworker or that person at work that you don't like? That you just have conflict with them, right? And so you're on your way to work, and what happens? You get a picture of that person in your mind, right? Oh, here it goes. So you get a picture, you get a memory of your last encounter with them, you're projecting forward what you think your encounter is going to be like today, and here we go. Only now, adrenaline is being released, right? And cortisol is being released into your body, which is causing your heartbeat to increase. It's causing your body to tense up. Why? Because you're getting ready for a war. And then you're having thoughts about it. You're thinking about, you've told that person off 10 times in your brain, right? You've told them off 10 times in your mind before you even get to work. You've already written and sent the email to your boss about all the injustices and all the stuff that happens, right? And then guess what? That in and of itself, even though you're creating those, both of those examples in your mind, you're having another experience. And so guess what? That experience is getting stored or remembered in your system. And so that's kind of how this works. So you could think about the thought on the triangle, the thought being what's going on in your brain, the feeling being what's going on in your body, right? And then, of course, the affirmation is kind of a mixture of thought and feeling in and of itself that says, yes, this is really how it is. And you do that, we do that repetitively over and over and over and over. so that you really do get stuck in this sort of feedback loop or this sort of cycle between your thinking and your feeling. Because your thinking is causing your feeling, but then you're having the feeling and you're thinking about your feeling, which is causing more feeling. And pretty soon you're the hamster on the wheel, right? And when that state of being becomes real to you, because that's congruence. When I talk about congruence, it's when your thinking and the way you feel in your body are consistent. So that person you don't like at work, if you're congruent with it, in this situation, you're thinking about the conflict, you're thinking about all the dirty things, the rotten things they did to you, you've written the email in your mind, you've told them off in a conversation, you're feeling it, you're in the fight or flight response. Anybody ever catch that? Like, you ever catch yourself, you start paying attention to this, you will notice that you will be sitting at home and you will have adrenaline pumping through your body, you will have cortisol pumping through your body, your blood pressure's going up, your heart rate's going up, and you're just sitting at home. That person isn't even there. The only place they exist in that moment to you, in relationship to you, is the pictures and the movies and the commentary in your own brain. So guess what you're doing? You're giving yourself a nice little chemical cocktail after work or before work or whatever, right? And it determines your state of being. So then what happens is we identify with that state of being and we start making I am statements. I am angry. Now, we just activated a whole other belief system, because what do you believe about anger? Is it okay to be angry, or is it not okay to be angry? Is there ever a context that it's okay to be angry? So we could do something like this. A lot of us grew up with messages, and still, spiritual communities, not just religion, but spiritual communities, send the message that anger is not okay. Aggression is not okay in any form. That's not light. That's darkness, whatever, right? So you have that belief frame. So now all of a sudden you've activated all of that. So it's like, oh my God, I shouldn't be angry. This is such a low vibration. I remember I saw the vibrational chart and state of being, high levels are compassion and gratitude and joy, and I need to be up here, but instead I'm down here. Oh, aren't I terrible? Now what you did, you activated guilt. So now you activated a whole other system. And you got this stuff going on all the time. And so then maybe you start saying to yourself, God, I'm such a terrible person. I'm never going to change. And we get stuck, and we do this thousands of times, right? Thousands of times every week, every month. So pretty soon you have these habitual patterns, these habitual ways of being, and your body, your biology is completely cooperating with it, so that you keep confirming your reality to yourself. Right? So you have that coworker, so watch this. So you have this coworker that's giving you trouble, and guess what that coworker's probably doing? They're probably doing the same thing. Coming into work, right? And so both of you are bringing what? Both of you are bringing tension. Both of you are bringing subtle little cues that we all pick up on unconsciously. Body language, tone of voice, facial expression that says this person's a threat, whatever. And so now you meet, so now, right? So now you have this relationship pattern going on. And so, and out of that, then we build this concept of who we are, and we stay stuck in it. We remember it, we keep repeating it, and we stay stuck in it, because your state of being will determine your experience. You walk into work ready for war, and guess what? The other person picks up on that. People pick up on that. God, I can walk into the place where I work, and I can tell what's going on the moment I walk in the door. Because I can pick up the vibe. Sometimes I pick it up before I get in there. And it's not always some kind of spiritual, intuitive thing. Sometimes it's just knowing how to read body language. Like you begin to learn when you know certain people have had a bad day because of the way they carry themselves. Why? Because their body's feeling it, right? If they're relaxed and open and smiling, oh, something good happened today. If they're tense and jaws clenched and, oh boy, what's coming today, right? But then you and I get to choose what kind of energy, what kind of expression do we bring into the situation? But it can become very difficult to change, right? So you could try this, like if there's constant tension between you and a person, just try imagining that you're really looking forward to seeing that person. Like putting yourself in a state of mind, not because you just have to do this to express light, but just to try it as an experiment. Putting yourself in a different state of mind about that person, and we'll talk a little bit about how you do that. I'm just trying to kind of frame out the problem before we look at some solutions. And then bring a different approach. Be aware of your body. Be aware of your tone of voice. Be aware of, instead of going in, tense and avoiding, go in like you just can't wait to see them. Bring them, buy them a Starbucks or something. Like, just freak them out. Like, buy them they drink Starbucks something, buy them a Starbucks. Walk in, hey, it's really good to see you today. I was really looking forward to seeing you. Set the cup down, smile at them, pat them on the back, and then when they tell you you're being a smartass, don't get triggered. And just see what kind of shift can begin to happen. I remember there was an individual one time, this was years ago, when I was kind of first learning some of this stuff, and we were in a lot of conflict. And we were having a meeting, and I knew that meeting was going to be tense, and I just decided I was going to just do that, exactly that, like act really happy and excited to see this person. And I walked in, I was like, smiled, like, man, it's so good to see you. Hadn't seen you in a while, because it wasn't somebody I dealt with on a daily basis, And I could see kind of the shock, but it shifted. And I'm going to tell you right now, that conflict dissolved, and we were able to have a very productive conversation just because I broke with the pattern and changed the pattern. Because what did I do? I changed my experience by changing what was going on the inside. And by bringing something different into the encounter, I changed the other person's experience as well. We really can be that powerful. We really can be that powerful when we learn how to run our own beliefs and we learn how to run our own system. Right? Because when you have those beliefs, if I stayed in the negative situation, here's what's going to happen. Even if that person was neutral, let's say that person came in neutral, and I come in, and I'm bringing that, right? That person is picking up on that intuitively, subconsciously. And so what happens? I'm bringing resistance. What happens? I start getting resistance back. And then what do I say? I knew it. I knew this was going to be a difficult conversation. I mean, you've heard me share the story before, like when I was in Phoenix, and Julie and I, we were going through just really a rough patch in our marriage. And so we thought, well, let's get away and fix it. That was really not the best idea, because when you're doing life, you have distractions from your problems. When you decide we're going to go away and just be together, it's like, it's just there. It's like, wow. And so, there was all this like tension and strife and all this stuff, and I could point to every single thing that she was doing to bring tension and strife into the relationship. And then I had a shift. I had a profound shift there where I got out of, I didn't realize I was constantly in that stress response. I was constantly in that fight or flight response. And I got a shift. And when I shifted basically from the stress response to a more relaxation response, for I felt okay inside. Nothing had changed outside. I felt okay inside. And we were fighting. I think she argues with me. She says it wasn't every day, but I still believe it was every day. In my movies, it was every day. My distorted, deleted, generalized version of reality, it was every day. And I remember that was on a Monday, and the rest of the day, there's no tension, no argument. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, I kept waiting for it, right? Thursday, we're laughing, having a good time. Friday, and I was like, holy moly, I was bringing all that tense energy into that relationship, and I didn't even realize it. Because it had become my reality. I had affirmed it as my reality. But the moment I shifted my energy and I was bringing a different energy into the situation, the whole situation changed. So you really can change your environment by changing yourself from the inside out. So how might a person who's stuck in one of these loops, how might that person begin to introduce something else? Well, the most basic way we're taught is think more positively, right? Because I mean, it makes sense. If let's just say I'm in one of these negative situations because I'm having negative thoughts, I'm having negative images, I'm having negative commentary, and I'm just piling it on. I'm having one negative thought about another negative thought about another negative thought. I'm sending these chemical cocktails into my body. I'm feeling it. Then I'm commenting on my feeling, and I'm really, I'm worked up, and I'm stuck in this loop. And I want to change that. And most of us, what we do is we take that energy and we go attack the problem out there. Well, I know what I'll do. I'll write a letter to my boss. I'll get a different job. We start trying to work the solution out here without realizing, without taking care of ourselves first, right? And that's a lot of hard work, actually. It's much easier to shift yourself, right? Or is it? So it's like, if I can introduce a new thought, if I can introduce a positive thought, if I can introduce a more loving thought in the situation with the person I'm in conflict with, if I can introduce a better thought, then it would make sense that I could introduce different neuropeptides and start activating different chemical responses in my body, and then I would start feeling differently about it, right? But how many of you know that sometimes that's not what happens? In fact, I would venture to say most of the time that's not what happens. So sometimes going to like a positive thinking seminar is the worst thing you can do for yourself. Because they'll create a great experience for you, right? They will get you pumped. Anybody ever been to a sales thing? Right? So you have a certain way of being as a salesperson. And let's say you have a standard you want to reach or you want to meet. And what happens as a salesperson? You're going to meet with rejection. What do you believe about rejection? You probably don't even know. And probably what you believe about rejection was wired into you before you even had choice through all your early experiences, right? What do you believe about hearing the word no? All that kind of stuff, right? So you have this goal that you're trying to meet. You can't meet the goal. You're being told no on your sales, whatever, which creates what? Negative response. So now you're in a negativity about it, but you're trying to fake it till you make it or whatever. So you go to this sales seminar thing, whatever. You go to a Tony Robbins event. You go to some, and they get you all pumped up, right? They get you psyched up. Oh, you can do it. They motivate you. They create a wonderful experience. Why? Because they want you to be having a good cocktail while you're there. Right? So then you come home, you think I can do this, and you got your affirmations, and you got your subliminal, whatever you got, right, to help you. And so now you're going to create a different way of thinking about this. So you're going to be a more positive way of thinking about this. And so actually what happens is you create two different structures. You don't actually modify the existing structure because you still have the memory of that. You still have all the programming of that stored in your brain. So what you're doing now is you're creating a new set that's an opposite set. And guess what you're doing? You're creating resistance within yourself. Because the moment you start introducing that new pattern, what happens to the old pattern? Wait a second. We don't like that person. I'm not going to take them coffee. Are you kidding me? Take them coffee? I'm not going to smile at them. And then this other, no, but we got to change it, because we want to feel differently. We want this to work out better, so we're going to do this. And now you got a war inside yourself. And the worst thing you can have, well, maybe not the worst thing, but let's just be honest. Very unpleasant to have resistance. Is bad. I mean, at least you were congruent. When you were pissed off, at least you were congruent about it. Now you're don't know how to be. Now you've got this division inside yourself, and you're at war with yourself. So now not only do you have the resistance out here, now you got resistance within here. So now you got resistance here because you got the positive mind, you got the negative mind fighting with each other, and you got the coworker still doing what they're doing, right? And then pretty soon, and then guess what? Then, I guess that positive thinking stuff didn't work for me. What's wrong with me? Now you're starting to, what's wrong with me? How come I can't get this? How come I can't make this work? Right? What if you tried a little bit different approach? What if you tried, instead of introducing a new frame, what if you try reframing the beliefs you already have? What's it mean to reframe something? So in other words, remember up here, I was talking about you have the sensory experience and then you're thinking about your thinking. So rather than just introducing something completely different, what if you delve into the structure of what you're doing to yourself? What if you paid attention to the movies and the pictures that you're already running? What if you paid attention to the way you're speaking to yourself or the way you're thinking about the situation to begin with? Because it's become a habit. It's repeatedly the same thing. And the interesting thing is it's interacting with all that stuff that you picked up in childhood, from all the different social interactions and all the different meanings. If you want to understand what a frame is, it's about giving meaning. All that thinking, once you've had the experience and you've imprinted it, now you're thinking and you're thinking about your thinking. What you're doing is you're giving meaning to the event. So my family's gone, right? So, oh man, it's a bummer to be alone. I'm missing out on the vacation. They're having a good time. I'm here by myself. Look at the meaning I'm giving. Or, wow, this is a great time. I got time to myself. It's quiet. I can watch anything I want to. I can feed the dogs or not feed the dogs. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, animal lovers. Just kidding. But this whole new vista of freedom can open up for me, right? Depends on the meaning that I'm giving to the event. And here's the thing, I get to choose what meaning that I'm giving. But see, we've done that our entire life. And so we've given meaning to ourselves. We have all kinds of either empowering or disempowering messages that we're sending to ourselves all day long. We're sending to ourselves messages, I can do this or I can't do this. We're sending messages to ourselves, I'm worthy and valuable or I'm worthless. And it depends on the context. In certain contexts, I can feel worthy and valuable, and in other contexts, I don't. In certain social contexts, I can feel comfortable. Other social contexts, I don't feel comfortable. You're the same person. The only thing that changed was the context. But what changed was which program, which cocktail you're giving yourself based on the meaning that you've given to similar contexts in the past. Some people can't stand to be alone. Some people can't stand to be quiet because for them it triggers all kinds of stuff. Maybe they have a fear of dying alone. Maybe they have abandonment issues. Who knows? You seen it? So if you delve into that stuff, you can begin to identify exactly what you're saying to yourself. And start just, for the sake of giving you some place to start with what are you thinking about the situation? Or you can start with what are you feeling, but then what's the thought that's connected to the feeling? Because they run together. They run in packs. They run in hordes. I'm scared. Why am I scared? Because I feel like I don't fit. All right, let's take those two. All right? So if you can take that belief and you can identify it, there's two different ways you can begin to change the frame. The first one is this. Let's say you take anybody, again, don't raise your hand, but anybody have something about yourself that you don't like? Anybody have something about yourself that you really don't like, character trait, something that you really don't like? It'd be interesting for you to identify that character trait and then write out what is the belief that goes with that. I am anxious. I am insecure. I am an angry person. I am whatever. And write that belief down and then get a different feeling about that. Because chances are pretty good, if it's a negative statement you're making to yourself, you don't feel very good about it. So instead of just saying, okay, I am insecure, so I'm going to counter that with the belief I am bold. Doesn't really work. Or it works as long as you can focus on, I am bold, 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 I am bold. But as soon as you let off the reins, guess what happens? I'm insecure again. It's like your default setting, right? So what happens if you go in and change the default setting by doing this? What if you realize, okay, I'm insecure and I feel terrible about that. So what if you allowed yourself to think about somebody that you love? Just set that aside for a minute and think about somebody or something that you love. For a lot of you, I know it's your grandbabies, right? Because grandbabies, you get all the benefits and you get to send them home to the parents with all the responsibilities, right? So they just bring joy and peace and harmony, right? Or think about something that you love. Think about an event that you love. Think about a food. Make it simple. Think about food that you love. Think about being on the beach instead of in your house. Anyway, you didn't catch that, but that's all right. Think about something you love until you have some sense of love. And then rather than trying to change the thought, because if you start trying to change the thought, if you think to yourself, I'm insecure, I'm worthless, I'm powerless, don't create resistance. Just admit. See, the moment you admit that you think and believe something, there's no resistance. There's no incongruence. If I genuinely believe I'm insecure, if I genuinely believe I'm powerless, and I start introducing, no, I'm bold, I mean, you know in your soul you're playing a trick on yourself. At least that's how it feels. And so what happens? There's all this resistance, which doesn't help you. So instead of creating resistance, what if you loved that part of you? What if you could introduce a different feeling by loving yourself unconditionally, even though you're that way? Because the moment you admit it, resistance comes down. Guess what? You're actually moving from this stress response into more of a relaxation response. You're actually beginning to change the chemistry within your own body when you do that. And then what if you apply love? Because love actually is the opposite of fight or flight, right? Fight or flight puts you in a place of avoidance or aggression, silence or violence. I ignore that person or I'm unkind to them, right? You can be doing that to yourself. You can be aggressive to yourself. You can be avoiding yourself. You know, people avoid themselves. They avoid feelings. They avoid problems. Most substance abuse is because you don't want to feel the way you're feeling. So you're trying to avoid it through the use of substances. That's why in 12-step program they say you have to feel it to heal it. Make sense? So now you introduce the feeling of love into that situation. And so you say to yourself, even though I'm anxious, I totally and completely love and accept myself. Even though I'm angry, I totally and completely love and accept myself. Even though I'm out of control, I totally and completely love and accept myself. What happens when you start doing that? Just me saying that, did you notice in the room? If you're sensitive, did you notice the energy shift? Because then it's like, right? It's like, oh, no, that's a negative thought. You're having the negative thought. What you're doing is introducing a totally different emotion, which means you're changing one really powerful aspect of the frame. Now, the other thing you could do is you could take the thought about the situation and you could look at it differently and you could reframe it in a way that doesn't create resistance. What do I mean by reframe? I mean, you subtly change the meaning of an event and it changes everything. Anybody ever experienced that? I remember when we started church back in 2002, we met with one horrible circumstance after another, like for the first 9 months. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was totally ridiculous. One thing after another, misunderstandings. People died. We had a lady that was driving home from one of the services, died on the way home from the service, killed in a car accident. And we were really struggling, right? We had some people that, I don't know what got into them. To this day, I don't know what got into them. But they were like close friends of ours, and then all of a sudden, the next thing we know, they're writing letters to people behind our back, saying all this stuff that isn't true. They're sending certified letters to people. They were sending certified letters to people to make sure they got them, to know how terrible we were. And it was completely, I mean, to this day, I don't know. I mean, and that's where, that was like the first time I got accused of being a drug addict. The first time, like. Happened to me again recently. I'm taking psychedelics or hallucinogens. I didn't know y'all knew, in case you didn't know that. I mean, that's out there. I mean, I'm like, what in the world gets into people, right? But these people were sending certified letters. I would actually have people come and say, well, we want to be a part of what you're doing. And this was back, everybody was devil conscious, you know. We want to be a part of what you're doing, but it just seems like everybody that connects with you, bad stuff starts happening to them. That's really what you want to hear. Thank you for that bit of encouragement and love. Right? And we had this thing, we called it the Last Supper. Because people come, they get excited, whatever, and then at least back then they had the decency to come talk to you before they left. Society has changed. But so we'd have dinner and we'd think it was a good dinner, or sometimes they didn't. Sometimes I think they chickened out or whatever. We think it was a good dinner, and then we wouldn't see them again. And so we literally, it happened to us enough that we like coined the phrase the Last Supper, right? And so there's this one couple, Faith still watches, so Faith, if you're watching, I'm talking about you. So that we really connected with, the sense have moved away, but that we really connected with, and they want to have dinner with us. And so guess what we were thinking? Oh my God, it's another last, oh, not them too, oh my God. And so here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, this is a struggle. Maybe we're out of the will of God. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. Maybe we should quit. Maybe we should give up. Maybe this is too hard. I mean, I had all kinds of negative thoughts upon thoughts upon thoughts upon thoughts about it, right? And we're sitting there at dinner, and I'll never forget this. And Faith brings it up. She says, well, you know, we've just noticed that you guys, that, you know, since the church started, this bad thing has happened, and this bad thing has happened, and this person died, and this person died. And I thought, oh, here it comes. And so here's my commentary. Here's my filter. Here's how I'm filtering the experience. Here it comes. Here it comes. I knew it. Right? And here's what she said. She said, we are so excited to be a part of this because there is no way that you could be standing in the midst of this situation if God was not with you and this was not the right thing for you to be doing. You know what she did? She brought a different meaning that completely reframed all the commentary, and it just kind of slipped in. And that was a game changer for me. Like anytime I think about reframing, that's what I think about. She just came in, she took the same set of circumstances, and all she did was give it, subtly tweaked it, and gave it a different meaning and said, no, it's not this, it's actually the opposite of what you think it is. You're going through a difficult circumstance, you can start asking yourself, in what way might this be serving me? In what way might this actually be helping me? In what way might this be happening for me instead of to me? And you just start asking those questions pretty soon. But see, look what you're doing. You're not creating a whole new triangle. You know, I'm insecure. Okay, I'm bold. Right? Now they're at war with each other. I'm bold. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Look what you did. No, I'm bold. No, you're not. Yes, I am. I'm going to sell. No, you're not. Yes, I am, because I'm going to apply all those techniques. I'm going to go in with energy. And then it didn't work. See, that didn't work. I told you that wouldn't work. Right? Instead of doing that, I'm working on this part of it. I'm taking the actual thought that I'm having. So the thought is I'm insecure. So instead of I'm insecure, I wonder, how would you reframe that? Maybe you could say, I'm sensitive. I don't know. Wasn't an illustration I thought of before I came up here. Here's a good one. You've probably seen this on Facebook. Have you seen it? Or some memes where they say, learn to say thank you instead of I'm sorry. Now watch the frame. Watch the frame. I'm sorry comes from a place of what? Guilt, shame, and I'm wrong. Right? Thank you has a totally different vibration to it. Right? Totally positive. So here's some examples. Person walks up and says, sorry, I'm late. And the other person says, whatever. Instead of saying, sorry, I'm always late, the person could say, your time is valuable. Thank you for waiting for me. The person says, cool. Maybe you have a hard time explaining yourself sometimes. And so you say, sorry, I'm not making a lot of sense. What if you changed it to, thank you for trying to understand me? Maybe you're one of those people that's just fun challenged. Fun disabled? You say, sorry, I'm kind of a drag. What if you say, thank you for spending your time with me? Sorry, I'm rambling. That's the person on the other end of the spectrum. They over-explain, right? Sorry, I'm just rambling. What if you said, thank you for listening to me? Sorry, I take up so much space. Thank you for appreciating me. Sorry, I'm such a disappointment. Change it to thank you for always having hope in me and believing in me. Thank you for not giving up on me. Don't apologize for simply existing. But some people, seriously, if you're not that person, have you met that person? Have you been that person? Like, I'm sorry I exist. I'm sorry I'm here. Yeah. Interesting though, huh? Just little ways that you can change the way you express yourself. So you can start thinking about, how do I express myself in situations? And how might I think differently so that I can express myself in a more affirming and loving way? Not necessarily to the other person, but coming from a place that's more loving and affirming of yourself. And so guess where that begins? Even though I'm insecure, I totally and completely love and accept myself. Even though I'm anxious, I totally and completely love and accept myself. Even though I'm misunderstood, I totally and completely love and accept myself. You start doing that, guess what? You start breaking down two parts of the triangle. And the third one, as you build more experiences, the third one can come so much more naturally. Like, I didn't have to go through this process. That's the power of reframing. When I was talking about my friend Faith, I didn't have to go through this whole process working on it. It was just like that energy that she brought, that emotion that she brought, and that different way of giving meaning to the circumstances that I had gone through in an instant changed everything for me. And guess what? When I started being more thinking and feeling more positively, guess what? I started bringing a different energy. You have no idea your potential to bring change to people's lives, change to organizations, change to situations by just the energy that you bring. Are you contributing to the progress and the life, or are you contributing to the demise? You get to make that choice. And one person making the choice, I'm going to be positive, I'm going to be excited, I'm going to bring the energy that I can bring, and I'm going to feel okay expressing that. You can change so much. And it really is simple. But all it takes is paying attention inside to what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And you can even deal with that bottom foundation of affirmation by just simply realizing not everything I think and feel is correct. The moment you say that, you're taking away the affirmation. Maybe it isn't as real as I think it is. Maybe there's different ways to look at this set of circumstances. Maybe there's different ways to look at this situation. Maybe there's different ways to look at this person. Maybe there's different ways I can look at myself. And you can start, really, simply, powerfully being a force for change in your own life and your own circumstances. God bless you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for coming, listening. Love all of you.